And Roman, I'd like to ask you, because you talked about governing for the future, governments governing for the future. Well, I can think of someone who could govern for the future, and he's the King, King Charles. You know, the royal family's it's got a vested interest in long-termism. It's got a very long history. It hopes to have a very long future. You know, and we've actually seen King Charles. He's probably the most outspoken public figure and member of the, member of the government, essentially, on this issue. So is that what we need? Do we need monarchies?
So this goes back to something that Sandrine was mentioning about basically the idea of benevolent dictators. Are they okay? You know, my dad thinks that, you know, we should deal with the climate crisis through benevolent dictatorship, and he's a sort of card-carrying socialist. I once went to a talk by Martin Rees, is he still the Astronomer Royal? He said exactly the same thing. And as you say, there's a sort of swathe of public opinion think, right, we need to be like China, we need to be like Singapore, give up some civil liberties, we can take action, maybe even Prince Charles could do it for us. But, so I got interested in this question a while ago, King Charles, whatever he is. Look, we're in a Republican space here, are we not? So I got interested in this question a while ago, because I used to be a geeky political scientist, not saying you're geeky, but I was. I used to love measuring things. And so I thought, is it actually true that authoritarian regimes, monarchies, dictatorships, and so on, actually perform better than democracies when it comes to long-term public policy, environment, inequality, health, and so on? What's the actual evidence? You know, is the world really like Singapore or whatever? So I looked at the data, you know, and I worked with this great statistician called Jamie McQuilkin, who's invented something called the Intergenerational Solidarity Index, which is a kind of a quantitative measure of long-term public policy. And then we plotted that against a very well-known measure of democracy called the VDEM Liberal Democracy measure. It's a sort of gold standard amongst political scientists. And lo and behold, what did we find? We looked at 122 countries. Of the 25 top-scoring countries on this Intergenerational Solidarity Index, in other words, good long-term environmental policy, of the top 25 scoring countries, 21 of them were democracies. Of the bottom 25 scoring countries, 21 of them were authoritarian regimes of various kinds. So maybe King Charles might help, but you have to cross your fingers and hope. But actually, in general, authoritarian regimes of whatever type are problematic for a lot of the reasons that Lisa was mentioning about accountability, fragility, all sorts of stuff like that. So I have no faith in the enlightened despot view. I'm sorry to my dad if he's watching this online.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for that answer.